Alright, so before I go on my internet and before I upload these videos, I must go read this book first because I want to have it due on Friday the 19th of December 2025. So here we go. So we'll go with Why Spiders Live in Dark Corners. So here we go. Let's continue this, okay? Before I go on internet first. So anyhow, let's go. And without further ado, here we go. Spider lived in a house made of banana leaves with his wife Aso, and his two sons. Did I say life? Sorry. Behind the banana leaf house was a garden. In the garden, Spider and his wife and his two sons planted yams and corn and tomatoes. Sorry if I said yarns, but that's okay. Let's move on, okay? Tomatoes, bananas, and as I was saying, tomatoes, bananas, and lemons and oranges. Oh, those are good for you. Also, when the rain came every year, the garden grew beautiful. And Spider and his family had plenty to eat. Every day, Aso cooked rice and vegetables and meat and peppers into a big stew. It was delicious, and Spider ate until he could eat no more. You might have thought Spider would be satisfied, but of course he was not. He wanted to have even more good things to eat. But I am afraid he wanted to eat most of the time when he was not sleeping. What can I do? Spider asked himself. There are many good things in my garden, and yet I can eat only half of them. I wish I could think of a way to have more. So Spider sat in his garden and thought. At last he had an idea. He told his wife he was not feeling very well, and that he was going to see the village magician. The magician knew many things and could tell what would happen next month or next year. After a while, Spider returned, and when Aso asked him what had happened, Spider told her that the magician said he was very sick, and that very soon he would die. Oh dear, that's not good. So Aso and her sons were very sad. Aso and her sons were sad, but Spider only said, "Since I am going to die soon, you must make a place to bury me. I want you to put it here, then just next to the spot where the tomatoes are growing." For Spider loved tomatoes best of all. When Aso had dug a deep hole for Spider's burial place, Spider said, "Now I want you to put in some spoons and knives and forks and some cooking pots so that I can feed myself when I am in the next world." And so Aso and her sons put spoons and forks and knives and cooking pots into the grave. One day, very soon, Spider pretended to get sick and die. He lay very still and closed his eyes and tried to stop breathing. Aso and her two sons shed many tears in their eyes and put Spider in his grave, just beside the tomato patch. Spider stayed in the deep grave for several days because his family had a fine funeral, and many people came to mourn for him. They brought food and sang funeral songs and played the funeral drums. When it was over, Spider sat up happily in his grave. He did not mind spending the day there because he loved to sleep anyway. And when night fell, can you guess what Spider did? Very quietly, he lifted the cover of the grave. He looked about to make sure that everyone was in bed, and when he saw that all was safe, he crept out very slowly. Sometimes the moon was so bright that Spider could see everything in the garden. He quickly picked several of the very best tomatoes. Then he pulled up some of the best yams. He cut off some green juicy peppers and pulled up a few big onions. Then Spider crept into the chicken yard and plucked himself a nice fat chicken. When he had everything he wanted, Spider went back into his deep grave. He cooked the grand feast. and ate all night long. Now it was not long after right after Vadasso and her sons began to notice that something was happening to the garden. Every morning some of the best tomatoes and yams were missing. They wondered who could be stealing from their garden, so Asso thought of a clever way to catch the thief. She brought a great pile of straw. Out of this she built a man that looked just like a real man. Then Asso got a bucket of soft, sticky beeswax. She covered the straw man with a thick coat of sticky beeswax, and when she finished, she set the man in the middle of a tomato patch. So that night, as soon as everyone was asleep, that night, as soon as everyone was asleep, Spider crept out, as usual. He was just about to pluck a big, juicy tomato when he saw a man standing in the middle of his garden. Spider was so angry he forgot all about trying to be quiet. "Who are you?" he shouted. "What are you doing in my garden?" But instead of explaining himself, the man only looked at him. "So, you won't talk, eh? You won't talk, eh? Well, where is your tongue?" asked Spider. "Get out of my garden at once." But still the man said nothing. He only looked at Spider and stood still. Do you think I am playing? Well, I will teach you a lesson," screamed Spider, and with that he hit the waxman as hard as he could with his right hand. Oof! His hand stuck fast in the beeswax. Spider could not move it, though he pulled very hard. "So," he screamed, "you are trying to be clever. Well, I'll show you. And he hit the waxman with his left fist, and that was stuck too. So Spider was stuck to the man with both hands. "What's this? What is this? You are really too much," cried Spider. "Do you know who I am? Well, I'll teach you a lesson." And with that he gave a mighty kick to the waxman. What do you think happened? Why, his foot stuck fast and he could not move it. Well, let's see. Haven't you learned it? Well, I'll give you another kick. And Spider kicked, and with that Spider kicked the waxman with his other foot, but it too stuck. But it got stuck too. Now Spider was stuck from hand to foot. Now Spider was stuck hand and foot to the waxman. He began to get a little frightened. Still, he tried again. "I am stronger than you," he shouted, and he gave the waxman a tight squeeze, and his stomach stuck fast to the waxman. "I will win this yet," said Spider, and he butted the waxman with his head as hard as he could. And, of course, his head stuck fast too. The next morning, Asso and her 2 sons went into the garden to see whether they had caught the thief. Imagine their surprise when they found Spider stuck to the waxman from head to foot, like from head to toe of our Carl. At once they understood everything. They pulled Spider down and took him to the chief to be judged a thief. Everyone knew who the thief was then, and the people in the village laughed at Spider and made up funny songs about him. After a time, Spider was so ashamed of himself that he ran up into the darkest corner of the ceiling to hide, and he has lived there ever since. We've got one more page left. So here we go. One more chapter left. So, how the world got wisdom. Now wisdom is another word for good sense. Nowadays there is wisdom everywhere in the world, but there wouldn't be any at all if it hadn't been for Spider's accident. Would you like to hear a story about it? Well, sure. Well, it says right there, so right here in that story. So, when the world was very new, Naim The Sky God gave all of the wisdom in the world to Spider, and it told him to do whatever he wished with it. Of course, Spider wanted to keep it all for himself, and so he put it in a huge clay pot and covered it up tightly. How lucky I am to have all this good sense, thought Spider. One day I will become a king, just like in Horrid Henry series, for I will be the only wise man in the world. I must hide it carefully, where no one else can see it. Spider ran through the forest as fast as his 8 legs would carry him, looking for a place to hide his pot of wisdom. Where are you going? Asked the tortoise. Where are you going? Asked the hare. And why are you such in a hurry? But Spider didn't answer. He just kept running, looking for a place to hide in his wisdom before somebody saw it and took some of it away from him. I know what I'll do, said Spider to himself. I'll hide my wisdom in the top of the tallest tree, the tallest tree in all the world. At last he found just the tree. It was a great silk cotton tree. At the bottom, its roots came up above the ground, and they were wide enough to hide an elephant. So, its smooth trunk was wide enough for Spider's whole house. At the top of a branch it spread out like an umbrella, and they were covered with soft silvery leaves and a fine gauze that looked like cotton. It's the perfect hiding place, cried Spider. No one will be able to climb it because there are no branches near the ground. So Spider went back to the place where he had left the pot of wisdom, and carried it to the foot of the great tree. Now the silk cotton tree is very hard to climb, for its outside is as smooth as a finger. But Spider was sure he could climb it. For one thing, he had more legs than almost anybody else. People had 2, and animals have 4. But Spider had 8. Spider tied the pot around his neck with a piece of strong rope, so that it hung right in front of him. Then he made ready to climb. He put his 2 top legs around the trunk of a tree as far as they would reach. He put the next 2 legs around the top of a pot, 2 more around the bottom of the pot, and the last 2 under the pot. Spider pulled it with his 2 top legs, and pushed it with his 2 bottom legs, and held the pot with his 4 middle legs. But the pot was heavy. After all it contained all the wisdom in the world, but little by little he began to go upward. The Spider was feeling very pleased when suddenly he slipped. In fact, he fell all the way back to the ground. Dear me, thought Spider. I have 8 legs. Surely I can climb this tree. Oh, so he started again. He hugged the tree as tightly as he could, and pushed and pulled with all his might. The pot was so heavy, and his 2 bottom legs just couldn't catch on under its weight. But this time his luck was no better than before. He fell right back down to the ground. Spider was getting warm, and I'm afraid he was getting angry. He decided to try once again. So he pushed and pulled harder than ever, but the same thing happened. No sooner did he get off the ground than his middle leg slipped. Then his right upper leg slipped, and his left top leg slipped, and his right bottom leg slipped, and boom! Down came Spider, pot and wisdom, and all right on the ground again. Now, all this time, Kuma, Spider's eldest son, had been watching. Father, said Kuma, I have an idea. Hang the pot behind you instead of in front of you. Then you will be able to climb the tree. When Spider heard this, he knew that Kuma had some wisdom too. wisdom too, and that he did not have all the wisdom in the world to himself. This made him so angry that he threw the pot to the ground. It broke into many pieces, and the good sense poured out in all directions and made such a noise that people came from everywhere to see what it is. Old women came from the market. Men came from the farms. Little boys came from their games, and little girls ran out of the round houses. And when they saw the wisdom pouring out of a pot, they all reached down and took some of it. Each of the animals got some. They spread it all over the world, in India and Spain and Panama, where it is always hot, or where it is always cold. Everybody has some wisdom because there was plenty to go around, plenty for you and me. And that's the end. And if you're watching this, come like and subscribe. So let's stop.